The idea of colonizing Mars has captured the imagination of humanity for decades. Once just a science fiction dream, it's now inching closer to reality. With efforts by NASA, SpaceX, and other international and private entities driving us toward the ambitious goal of making humanity a multi-planetary species. Colonizing Mars isn't just about planting a flag. It's about securing a future for humanity, ensuring our survival, and possibly unlocking new scientific discoveries that could revolutionize life on Earth. But how would this journey unfold over the first 100 years? Year 1 through 5, the pioneering phase. The first few years on Mars will be marked by excitement, challenges, and the gritty determination to survive in one of the most inhospitable environments known to man. The initial crewed mission to Mars would focus on establishing a foothold on the Red Planet, which would become known as Mars Base Alpha. The early days would be all about survival and setting up basic infrastructure. Living quarters would be constructed using pre-set supplies and technology designed to withstand Mars' harsh conditions. The first habitats would be small but sturdy, designed to house the astronauts safely while they worked on expanding the base. The key achievements during this phase would be the successful deployment of life support systems, solar energy arrays, and basic in situ resource utilization systems, which would begin producing water and oxygen from local resources. During these first few years, the crew would also focus on early scientific research, studying Mars geology, atmosphere, and potential resources. The data gathered would be crucial in planning for future expansion and ensuring that Mars Base Alpha could eventually sustain a larger population. Year 6 through 15, consolidation and expansion. As Mars Base Alpha becomes more established, the focus would shift from mere survival to growth and expansion. New living quarters would be added, and the first agricultural modules would be introduced, allowing the crew to start growing their own food. This period would also see regular supply missions from Earth, bringing in more equipment and crew members to support the base's growing operations. International collaboration would become a key feature during this phase, with space agencies like European Space Agency, Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, and private companies joining forces with NASA and SpaceX. This collaborative effort would not only accelerate the base's development, but also foster a spirit of global unity in this extraordinary endeavor. The first Martian industries would begin to take shape as well. Using 3D printed components made from local materials, the crew would start constructing additional infrastructure, reducing reliance on Earth for supplies. Early attempts at sustainable food production through hydroponics and algae farming would be made, laying the groundwork for a self-sufficient colony. Year 16 to 30, diversification and independence. By now, Mars Base Alpha would be a well-established outpost, and the focus would shift to diversifying the colony and making it more independent from Earth. Other countries, led by China, would establish their own bases, creating a multinational presence on Mars. This would lead to an increase in scientific research and exploration missions, as each base would contribute unique expertise and perspectives to the collective effort. Technological advancements would play a critical role in this phase. ISRU systems would reach full functionality, producing not just water and oxygen, but also fuel and other essential resources from Martian materials. Large-scale construction projects would begin, including the building of underground living spaces to protect inhabitants from radiation and extreme temperatures. Advanced agricultural facilities would be established, and a transportation infrastructure around Mars Base Alpha would start to take shape. One of the most significant milestones during this period would be the first return missions to Earth. These missions would be critical in proving that long-term Mars missions are viable and that astronauts can return to Earth safely after extended periods on the Red Planet. The success of these missions would pave the way for more frequent rotations of crew members and the start of long-term residency programs on Mars. Year 31 to 45. Urbanization and societal development. As Mars Base Alpha continues to grow, it would begin to resemble a small city rather than just a research outpost. The population would increase, with hundreds of residents now calling Mars home. This would include not just scientists and engineers, but also support staff, construction workers, and even tourists seeking the ultimate adventure. With the increase in population, the colony would strive for greater self-sufficiency. Mars would produce most of its own food, with greenhouses growing a variety of crops, fish farms providing protein, and cultured meat facilities catering to the dietary preferences of the inhabitants. A nuclear reactor would be constructed to meet the growing energy demands, ensuring a stable and reliable power source for the expanding colony. Exploration would extend beyond Mars itself. Human missions to the Martian moons, Phobos and Deimos, would be launched, and the first expeditions to the asteroid belt, including the dwarf planet Ceres, would take place. Mars would serve as a launch point for deeper space exploration, with the possibility of establishing way stations on these celestial bodies. Year 46 to 60. Establishment of Martian society. As the population on Mars grows, so does the need for a structured society. Local governance systems would be developed to manage the day-to-day operations and address the needs of the residents. A Martian police force would be established to maintain order, and a judicial system would handle both criminal and civil disputes. A distinct Martian culture would begin to emerge, shaped by the unique challenges and experiences of living on the red planet. Economic growth would follow, with Martian businesses and tourism industries taking root. Familiar Earth brands might make their way to Mars, offering comforts of home to the colonists and tourists alike. However, this period would also bring social challenges. The prospect of raising children on Mars would raise concerns about their health and development in a low-gravity environment. Additionally, discussions about the relationship between Martian colonies and Earth would become more prominent, as residents might begin to seek greater autonomy and self-governance. Year 61 to 80. Terraforming and major infrastructure projects. By the time Mars reaches its 6th decade of human habitation, the once daring dream of transforming the red planet into a second home for humanity would start to take tangible shape. Terraforming, a concept that once seemed more suited to sci-fi novels, would begin with a series of controlled experiments. These would likely focus on altering the Martian atmosphere, making it thicker and more hospitable. Though we're still far from taking off our helmets and breathing the Martian air like we're in a summer meadow. The first steps in terraforming would include building large, controlled environments, massive domes that would simulate Earth-like conditions. These domes would house not just plants, but entire ecosystems, a testament to human ingenuity and our stubborn refusal to let a little thing like a completely hostile environment stop us. As the population grows, these domes would expand, becoming bustling hubs of life and activity. Meanwhile, Mars' infrastructure would undergo a major upgrade. The transportation network would expand with the introduction of underground hyperloop systems, allowing residents to zip from one end of the base to another in minutes. Picture the convenience of a Martian subway, but with fewer rats and more views of red rocks. Alongside this, advanced power sources such as fusion reactors would be introduced, ensuring that Mars can meet its growing energy needs sustainably. These advancements would turn Mars into a self-sufficient colony, less reliant on Earth for essential supplies. Mars would also begin to establish itself as a key player in interplanetary commerce. With its abundant resources, the planet would start exporting materials, possibly even food and water, to other space colonies and back to Earth. Imagine Earthlings sipping on Martian mineral water, touted as the ultimate exotic import. Year 81 to 100. Mars as a thriving civilization. As the first century of colonization comes to a close, Mars would have evolved from a series of isolated bases into a thriving civilization. The population would swell into the tens of thousands, with multiple cities dotting the Martian landscape. Educational institutions, cultural centers, and even sports leagues would spring up, creating a vibrant society that's beginning to forget what Earth sunsets look like. One of the most remarkable developments would be the emergence of the first generation of Martian-born humans. These individuals, who might cheekily refer to Earth as the Old World, would define the future of the colony. Their upbringing in a low-gravity environment would give them unique perspectives, and maybe even a knack for extraordinary jumps. As Mars becomes more established, there would be growing calls for political autonomy. Martians might start pushing for self-governance, feeling that decisions affecting their lives should be made on their own soil, or rather, their own regolith. This quest for independence would be matched by the development of a Martian economy, with Mars positioning itself as a hub for interplanetary trade and exploration. But with these advancements would come challenges. Environmental issues such as radiation protection and resource management would require ongoing attention. Managing relationships between different Martian colonies and their counterparts on Earth would also be crucial, as the balance of power and influence shifts in this new interplanetary society. The first 100 years of Mars colonization would be a story of extraordinary achievements, overcoming challenges, and redefining what it means to be human. From the first pioneers who set foot on the barren planet to the thriving cities of the future, Mars would transform into a vital chapter in humanity's journey into the cosmos. As we look beyond Mars, to the moons of Jupiter or the icy rings of Saturn, we can only imagine the next steps humanity will take, with Mars serving as our first great leap into the stars. That was it for today. If you're interested in knowing more about Mission Mars, then don't forget to watch our video about what the journey to Mars would look like. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for the next video.